Dr. Judy WTF. And tonight's show is about post COVID dating and looking for those red flags that we all know will only bring you down into chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. And we're going to mind map everything, which I usually do, always do, as a matter of fact, on every show. So, just by way of introduction, I'm a clinical psychologist. I created the mind map system for healing human disconnect, the Be the Cause mind map system, because the point is that I want to have this system create you to be the cause of the outcome of your life rather than to be at the effect of other people's wishes and desires and manipulations and control. And so this mind map is something that my team and I um, um, deliver to people as a healing journey, and people go through this journey in order to identify their childhood wounds, how these wounds are encoded, how we then get triggered by these horrible woundings and encodings, and how they take you down into this what the Freud repetition compulsion pattern of repeating past pains and generating new pains and looping through this mess ad nauseum. So this show is going to help illuminate how that happens, why that happens, and why it is so important to pick the people that you're going to live your life with, surround yourself with, and how important it is to pick the right people to synergize with. So with that said, I'm going to start with, how do you ensure that you pick the right people? Well, there are no guarantees, and some people are really, really clever at it, and they can bring you in, they can snare you into a relationship, and before you know it, you're in it, you're toxically bonded, and you feel that you can't get out unless you go through almost like a heroin withdrawal kind of pain. And why do these toxic bonds happen? They happen because we don't heal on a basic level our own childhood wounds. And so therefore we keep picking people to reinforce and replicate these wounds. And that is exactly what the show is about, is how not to do that. So what's the first step? From a mind map perspective, the first step to make sure that you don't go down the relationship drain is to heal thyself. And that means really going on a journey and not just treating symptoms, but actually getting behind the cause of the problem, which I will break down for you in a few minutes. And those of you who have done the system or have been watching a lot of my YouTube episodes are familiar with the mind map. And for those of you who are not, I will break it down. But I want to say a few things about post-COVID. So congratulations, world. We're now post-COVID. I know that other nations are not quite where we are, and some people are behind, and some people are not really post-COVID, because I've got to acknowledge that there are people who have COVID as we speak, are dying of COVID as we speak. So this has been a really serious and devastating worldwide catastrophe. And for most of us in the United States and Canada, we are opening up. The businesses are opening up. We're opening up the dating world. We're opening up, seeing our friends and family without masks officially as of June 15th. So it's quite a relief. And I hope that the world has learned something from this horrible curse. And I like to think of it as a horrible curse, and all curses as a curse by design. So I hope that we've learned how important human connection is. I hope we have learned the value of relationships, and the most invaluable piece of relationships is to have empathy for other human beings. We are not transactional. We are not objects in the dating world. We are not there to fill anybody's hole in the soul. As a matter of fact, that's your job, to heal your hole in the soul so that you don't plug other people in there and use them consciously or unconsciously to soothe your pain, to fulfill your control needs, and so on and so forth. And this is a call-in show, everybody. So please feel free to call in, and I'm happy to talk to you. And let's start with talking about the difference between pre-COVID dating and post-COVID dating. So let's acknowledge a few more things. That a lot of people have been starving for affection and attention and sex and fun and just even anything, just a hug or just being able to stay more than 6 feet away from another human being. So given that we're starving for this affection, in the post-COVID dating, which we are now in, we have to be really, really careful that we don't react on our needs and go overboard and assume that or be so starved for these feelings that we automatically superglue to the next person that we go out with and then make that a relationship. So relationships take time. They take trust. They take emotional intimacy. Hopefully, the relationship that you're in or will be getting into is somebody that you can call a growth partner, somebody who's going to have your back. So I pulled out an article by Dr. Abigail Brenner, MD, and she talks about 10 relationship red flags. So I thought I would just sort of segue from this article into the topics and elaborate and then do some mind mapping. So first of all, her main point is that we imagine things to be true of other people. So what she says, was your fantasy about this person what you imagined or assumed to be true, validated in reality? So I want to go to a concept that I talk about called positive projection. And when we're out there in the world for the very first time after a year and some, we want positive. We want the person in front of us to be a great person, a great connection. We don't want to waste a lot of time and date, and maybe some of us do, but I know that people who are looking for a quality long-term relationship want to find somebody that they can build something with. So be careful that you don't positively project on the person in front of you. And that means that you're assuming that they have all these great qualities. So maybe they have a couple of great qualities, and then your imagination fills in the gap and projects on them, they're also this and they're also that, and it's just your imagination projecting on them because you don't know them from Adam in most cases. And so you have to give it some time and knowledge and gather information. And instead of positively projecting on them, I recommend that people park the new person in a kind of a neutral, pleasant zone. And over time, they can earn your trust. They can earn your love. They can earn the privilege of going deeper and deeper into your life. So what are some of these relationship killers? For me, I want a growth partner. I want somebody that I can communicate with. Obviously, I'm a psychologist, so that would be very important to me and hopefully very important to you too, because without communication, how do you then flow back and forth? How do you correct each other's behaviors so that you don't detonate and devastate each other by triggering core beliefs or painful memories and so on and so forth? So you've got to communicate. Lack of communication is an example of emotionally distancing oneself. When you're not when you hook up with a non-communicator, you're hooking up with somebody who is emotionally unavailable. And this is not a good idea because human beings are wired to connect. And when we pair with somebody who's emotionally unavailable, we're not really allowing ourselves to pair with somebody who's going to emotionally connect with you. We need feedback in order to grow. Um, the second red flag she talks about is irresponsible, immature, and unpredictable people. So when we're talking about irresponsible people, we're talking about people who don't show up on time, people who don't clean up after themselves, people who are irresponsible with finances, with with any level of life, really. They don't keep their word. They're irresponsible with their even with their grooming. They don't show up for the person in a fully respectful way. And this blends into immaturity because if you're irresponsible, there's a level of immaturity there. And who wants to date somebody that is immature? So hopefully during this time of quarantine, you've been working on yourself and have used this opportunity to get healthier physically, spiritually, emotionally. And if you didn't use that time that way, it's not too late because you could still grow and improve on all aspects of your life, mind, body, and soul. And again, this is a call-in show. I would love to hear from you, and let's discuss dating post-COVID, what it's like out there, and what are some of the experiences that you may have had. I know that we're back in the dating world as of, well, I guess we've always been back in the dating world, but now maybe meeting up in person instead of in chat rooms. So what do I mean by unpredictable? I talk a lot about emotions and emotional dysregulation, and to me, unpredictable, it brings up emotionally dysregulated people. People who maybe up there one day and then depressed another day. People who are unpredictable in the way they respond to you. They don't offer a sense of security, a sense of stability, and so on. And that is the last kind of person that you want to get involved with because you're going to be bouncing around like a ball, and we all need stable attachment. So the first thing is going back to healing thyself and making sure that you're as emotionally stable as possible. You're as predictable and honorable and in integrity as possible. Because if you're not, then how can you attract a person who is? And again, we can only fool ourselves and we can only fool people for so long before all of this starts to emerge. Now, another source of emotional unpredictability is something that I talk a lot about. I talk a lot about narcissism, narcissistic recovery, narcissistic abuse, and this is a topic that spells trouble because when you pair up with someone who has no empathy, who lacks the ability to truly feel and feel for you, anything goes because their pain is their pain and your pain is not their pain. And it doesn't matter to them if they put you in pain. And in some cases, with a more malignant type of narcissism, the more pain project onto you, the better they feel for the moment. So this is going to feel very unpredictable because at the beginning they may have a tendency to love bomb you and draw you in and form this toxic tie that you don't even know is toxic, but it starts out with wine and roses and being emotionally very available and studying you and figuring out what your needs are, what your likes are and preferences are, and then offering those things up. And then once the bond is sealed and and once the addiction, the love addiction is established, then they can start to withdraw the the connection, and then you'll find that the roses don't really show up any longer, and the home cooked meals are not offered anymore, and the long and longing looks in the eyes of dreamy eye contact are now centered on the computer screen or the cell phone, or maybe even eyeballing somebody else over there. And so it's really, really important to keep your senses aware and know what it is that you're observing, and to trust your gut. So if your gut is telling you that something feels off, if something feels disconnected, then you may be onto something. And so then you want to be more of an observer for a while and pull back and not give so much of yourself until you have more information. Another point she makes in her article is lack of trust. So I talked about the narcissist and how they may deceive and devalue and demean, destroy, and even lead double lives. And so trust will be broken when there's a sense of betrayal. And so you have to establish trust. And one way of establishing trust is just through getting to know the person and asking great questions. Not suggesting that you interview people like a reporter would, but you do. You want to know that you're not hooking up, pairing with a deal breaker. And deal breaker is somebody that is just going to be a no-go from the start. Let me give you some examples. No-go might be something like two people where one person definitely wants children, the other person definitely doesn't want children. Deal breaker, there's nothing you can do about that, but don't you think it's smart to discuss those things up front? So it's so sad when I hear that people never discussed it, or they were too embarrassed to ask the question, or just didn't get around to asking the question, and they go deep into the relationship, and then, oh, I didn't know you wanted to have children. Well, that's just a deal breaker. And I'm sure you can all think of things that are deal breakers to you. Things like smoking cigarettes might be a deal breaker to one. Another deal breaker might be a person's socioeconomic status. If somebody is in a higher SES, socioeconomic earning capacity, their deal breaker might be, hey, I don't want to take care of you. I don't want to pay for your life. I want a partner who's going to chip in and be, somewhat of a participant. So there are lots of different deal breakers. And I think that in order to be responsible in your dating, it's important to sit down with yourself and understand what those deal breakers are. You don't even have to justify them. Deal breaker could be something as simple as, well, I'll share my pet peeve. I like people with nice, clean teeth and nice, clean presentation, and that's just my thing. So if somebody smiles and their dental hygiene is not good, and they have plaque all over their teeth, I'm sorry, that's a deal breaker. And so you have to know what your deal breakers are, so that you don't try to renegotiate with yourself and think, that's a really nice person, but I don't know if I can live with this or that or that. Now, if you want to put out to that person that you want them to make some tweaks and changes, if you're going to be that brave, well, go ahead, be that brave. But don't be too surprised if the person is offended or walks away or just pushes back and says, I don't want anybody that's going to try to change me. So that's a touchy one, because I think everybody wrestles with that. They go out with a person and they think, that's a really nice person. That's a wonderful woman, wonderful man. It's just that, damn, I hate their haircut, and, I really hate their wardrobe or something. Well, I don't know. My way, and it may not be yours, is that if I like the person enough, I might suggest to them something, because I'd rather give the opportunity for that relationship to take off than to just walk away from it because of a bad haircut. So, personal choice, do what's right for you, but do again know what your deal breakers are before you enter into a relationship. Another point she makes is that when significant family and friends don't like your choice, people listen to this. I can't tell you how many times people have come into my office and they've said, "Oh, my mother told me that that was not a good person. My best friend noticed how selfish my partner is," or my cousin told me that the person wasn't really that nice to the pets. So pay attention to that, because unless the other person is a full-blown narcissist with an agenda to control you, manipulate you, and get you away from somebody because they just want to demean and devalue your relationship, listen to your friends, listen to your family, listen to your coworkers, listen to the people who have no other agenda than your best interests, and see what they feel about the person that you're dating. And again, this is a call-in show. I would love to hear from you. So please do call in and we can discuss post-COVID dating and all the red flags to watch out for now that you're back in the dating scene. And in the meantime, I want to break down this mind map so that you can understand truly what I mean by heal thyself, which is the first step in preparing for a great relationship. So if you would mind to put up the mind map so that I can break it down and people can see it, I'd appreciate it. Okay, hopefully it'll be up there. If not, I want people to understand that the mind map is a journey. And this, thank you very much. And this journey is divided into the past, which is represented by the first top 3 panels, the wounds of childhood, the reactions, and the encoding. And the past is your blueprint. The past is what dictates how you have been taught to internalize the world, and how even to view the world. So if you look at panel 1, you're going to see a bunch of light in the background, and that is a metaphor that I use to look to the potential that you have in you to be the best of your best. So that's your light. And all the little shadows over it are all the wounds and all the things that trip us up in life and shadow over our ability to manifest the best of our best. And in the mind map journey, we look at 5 major wounds, and they're the abuses and the neglects. The abuses are physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, and then the neglects are smothering, controlling. It's just a kind of a way of killing off the person's individuality, and abandonment, neglect. And so these wounds compromise our ability to grow, and we then therefore arrest in development. And because of these wounds, we now have reactions that then compromise us even further. So these reactions to the wound can include shutting down, or even dissociating in situations where the wounds are very profound. And these reactions are pre-verbal, meaning are nonverbal baby reactions to being disconnected from. And Dr. John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, talks about what we need to feel connected. And it's the same thing today as it was when we were babies. What we need to feel connected is we need human touch, we need eye contact, we need a sense of being mirrored and heard, a sense of being attuned to, and regarded as important and lovable, and a human being that is valued for who he or she is, and not only for how much they have or what they do. So these are the things that we need for ourselves, because we're definitely wired to connect. And
Dr.
so,
Judy, we do have one caller.
hey, thank you so much.
Her name is Asiana. I'm gonna let her in right now.
Okay, thank you. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you so much. Is your name Adriana or Asiana? Hello? Hello?
Oh man, I hope we didn't lose her.
Oh, I hope we're not having the same problem.
Says she's in. Um,
Okay, we could try again.
yeah, let me see what I can do.
Okay. Hopefully the call center will be working. I know we had a problem last week, so um, so try again. Call back and see if we can
Okay,
connect.
I'll let you know when I get her connected again. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so again, these reactions are primitive reactions, and they carry through into our relationships. And so, if we were not soothed, if we were not contained by our parents, what happens is we have little capacity to self-soothe. So, where it becomes relevant in dating is that when you're with somebody who doesn't know how to manage their feelings and self-soothe, you're going to have to do a lot of that soothing for them, and that might get really tiresome. So yeah, of course we all need to be soothed, but imagine putting so much energy and time into calming your partner down constantly. And so I'm saying, do the work before you get into the relationship. Were you able to get her back online?
Yes, here she is. Let me put her in, and
Okay, hi.
I think she's in now.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I hope the call does not drop. I'll say a little prayer,
Yeah,
okay?
sorry about that. We're having a little technical difficulties.
All right, so hi, what is your name, please?
Asiana Jabardo.
Okay, thank you so much. And what brings you to this call? How do you relate to the topic?
Well, I guess I'm in a relationship, and we got into it about a couple months before COVID started,
Okay.
and obviously that was the craziest time to get into a relationship because it went from being normal to not. So I'm just wondering, um, like, what are red flags I should be looking for in narcissistic behavior
Sure.
during this COVID time? It was I don't know, it's kind of been like a weird, like, we're stuck together thing, and things are coming out, and yeah, I guess I'm just wondering about red flags and what I should be looking out for.
Great question, because you're bringing up a really important part of COVID, which is that it's sort of like a pressure cooker. So if you're in a relationship and you're not getting out and you're not really going to work and doing all the things that you would normally be doing, like going to the gym, etc., it becomes that pressure cooker feeling. So we don't know if a person's being overly narcissistic or overly sensitive or what. So okay, so did you guys get together right before COVID? You said.
Once again, the calls are dropping. I'm not sure why.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, okay. I'm just gonna address a little bit about what she said and take it from there. And if you can get her back, that would be great.
I will. I
Okay.
will try my best. I'll give her a call
Okay.
right back.
So Adrian, I'll just keep talking about this because maybe you'll relate, and certainly the audience hopefully will relate that sometimes when we're starting a relationship, and then boom, this virus hits us, and we can't really feel free to date other people, and we can't introduce this person to our family and friends, and so we're just there with them. and we're not sure if this is a good thing or we're just sort of, being together to keep each other company through COVID. So, um, sometimes people.
Room and can manage your callers from the Call-in Studio web interface.
Okay, so this is really not working, is it? Okay. Um, okay, so anyway, going back to the point of really wondering, is this the right person, or did I just compromise myself because I couldn't date other people? And how do I know he's a narcissist or not, or am I behaving narcissistically? So what is narcissism? Narcissism is a lack of empathy. It comes with a lot of nasty features like overinflating oneself, demeaning and devaluing, and sometimes even character destroying. Your partner comes with nasty things like projecting your anger on another person. It appears as if there's this lack of care and emotional connection because the person isn't able to fully connect because, again, they don't have the capacity. On the malignant end, it can get really, really nasty and show up as complete betrayal, double life, the covert narcissist who's with you and as sweet as pie and dating other people and abandoning the relationship by already having their foot out the door. And so there are a lot of red flags of narcissism to look out for. And one of those red flags is how the person treats the other people around you. How do they treat the waiter, the waitress, the service people? How do they treat your animals? Um, how is it when you're not feeling well, for example? Is the other person really there to care, or are they actually annoyed by your not feeling well? So if they're feeling put out because you're not doing well, that's a really, really bad sign. And so it's almost like this COVID isolation business has been this cauldron for some people that's tested the relationship. And so how do you know that you're just kind of like going a little bit stir crazy? Because I think one way you know is that you can have like a sense of pre and post COVID experience of the person, and you can kind of tell that they're not quite um, a cluster B, like a personality disorder, because they're able to own their own stuff. And this is very, very important to know in a relationship, because when you're with somebody that is narcissistic and lacks empathy, they will never own their own stuff, and they will make it as though it's all your fault. And the way they'll do so is by gaslighting you. And this is a very common defense mechanism, if you will, that narcissists use to drive people crazy so that they can stay in control. And gaslighting really is a way to make you crazy and doubt yourself. So they may say something like, "I didn't say that." And remember when you said that, and you're thinking to yourself, "No, I don't remember that I said this or that." And so the gaslighting is when you begin to question yourself and you don't even know anymore. And if you're a people pleaser, trouble here, because you're going to try to justify it. You're going to search your soul and try to reconstruct the conversation and figure out what you did wrong and how you're the bad person and how you're the crazy person and how you've made it all up and how you've projected on them all the wrong aspects of them. And so if you find yourself doing this and over and over, if you find yourself feeling weaker and weaker and more depressed and more deflated, you're probably in a toxic relationship. And then there's the obvious. If they're name calling you, if there's any sort of violence going on, you got to get out of there. You have to get out of there. And, I always say, don't dump the person, dump the problem. But, first you get out of there if it's not safe. And then if the person cannot fix themselves over time and they can't go through the journey of looking at their own wounds and why they're acting that way and really, really dive in so that they can take responsibility and go right to doing what's necessary to heal it so that they don't replicate it in the next relationship. You don't want to be with them. And the best thing to do to make sure that you don't get into a bad relationship other than heal yourself is don't get in quickly. Take your time. There's no rush. There's no rush for sex. Sex is a bonder. Once you start having sex with an individual, it's really, really hard when the pheromones kick in and it feels so good and all those endorphins are going on. It's really, really hard to extricate yourself from something that feels good and really, really easy to justify that really everything is better than your gut is telling you that it is. So these are the things to really watch yourself, watch out for yourself. And I don't know if the call center is working. Is it working at all? Or
Yeah, we got everything back up. I'm not sure
Okay,
what happened there, but nobody is in the waiting room. But it's all back up. So if anyone wants to call in, it's all
try
good.
again. I'm just hoping this is not going to be a recurring problem. I apologize profusely to my audience because I love talking to you, and technical problems are very, very annoying, of course. So can we try again? Maybe the person who called, is she still around?
She's not in the waiting room anymore. I'm sorry.
All right, well, maybe three's the lucky charm here, so let's try. And if anybody else wants to call in, so again, this is such a broad topic. You can't cover every single situation. I know that one of my fans wrote me some letters about sex and love and what to do if you're in a sexless relationship, but you love the person and you don't really want to break that other person's heart. Well, sex is very important and love is very important. And if the love is there, then I would say let's try to connect the sex with the love, because when you're in a more of a narcissistically oriented relationship, then people become objects. They become sexual objects. And that's fun for the moment, maybe fun for the day, but not so fun for long term, because the glue, the glue really is the human connection. The glue is the ability to bond with each other and create something, create the light. So if you look at panel number 7, panel 7 represents synergy. And what is synergy? Synergy is when you have a growth partner, somebody who you get together with, and because they're in a pretty good spot, a pretty good healed spot, and you're in a pretty good healed spot, you're adding to each other's light. And I call it the 1 plus 1 is greater than 2 phenomenon. And that's what I call a growth partner. And so you got to ask yourself, again, many questions. Number 1, do you have any deal breakers? Number 2, is there something in your gut that's telling you something's off here? Number 3, are your friends and family going, no, stop, don't date this person, listen to them? Number 4, are you moving too fast? Is this person violating your boundary, your boundaries here? Are you allowing them in too quickly because they're acting as if you're the one and let's seal the deal and let's get on with it? Not such a good idea, because this is probably one of the most important, if not the most important decisions to make in life, is who your life partner is going to be, who your husband, your wife, your partner, the mother, the father of your child is going to be. And so you want to pick wisely here. Let me see what other points she makes in this article. I really like some of the points that she made, and we know these points, but I just want to get into it from a mind map perspective. Another point that she made is um, controlling behavior. I kind of touched on it, but let's talk about control in family and childhood wounds. And if we go back to the panel one, when we are raised by controlling narcissistic parents who put their feelings and their agenda before yours, then it's easier because you're now groomed to be with a controlling partner. And so if you want to do some prevention, that's what I mean by heal thyself, so you don't get involved with a controlling partner. Controlling partners are controlling because they don't know how to play a better game of life. The intimacy button doesn't work anymore. So they can't really connect with you. They can't really relate to you. They don't have the empathy necessary to form a healthy bond. So the next best thing is control. So coming from a controlling family, you can see elements of control by how your parents may have treated you, by telling you what to wear, who to date, what religion to believe in, what school to go to, what hobbies to sign up for, who to be friends with, and on and on and on. So this is what I mean by being groomed to then later on do what I call the WTF and repeat this horrible cycle of picking people who are controlling. Because in the world of somebody who's coming from parents that are controlling, that is the norm. Parents set the bar. And for those of you who do not have a copy of my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, you can pick it up at Amazon. You can get a free, that is free, FREE, download of the book simply by going to the Psychological Healing Center, and you can request the book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, and everything that I'm talking about conceptually is described there. The wounds, the reactions, the encodings, and all of the chaos defenses and breakdowns, and how to morph out of all the mess. And this book is best paired if you go into therapy with one of my wonderful staff members and have a really beautiful group of people who have learned the mind map, and also paired with my 9-panel mind map video series that you can purchase. And by purchasing it, you can then have me as your guide through the mind map. I lecture the entire process of the mind map and take you on a journey. And a lot of what you will learn is how to think like a shrink. Because if you know how to self-analyze, if you know how to be aware of what's coming down the pike, then you won't fall into victimhood as easily. And then even if you do, you'll be able to recognize it quickly and crawl out of the darkness and back into the light. And so I can't overemphasize the importance of psychoeducation enough. So it's not enough just to go to therapy and talk about your issues and manage symptoms and become an expert in narcissism or whatever is the important topic that you are thinking about in your mind. It's important to work a system. And what I have found when I've done my studies, when I look at the work of other people, is that there's so many intelligent, very, very educated, great diagnosticians out there, except that they lack a system of healing. And I know that there's cognitive behavioral and there's all kinds of methodologies. However, I think they fall short if they don't touch upon the cause, because simply delving into your cognitions is a great big aspect of the mind map. It's panel 3. It's looking at negative core beliefs and how they impact us. But unless we connect the dots of these negative core beliefs like I'm not good enough, or I'm not lovable, or I'm not this or that, unless we connect it back to the cause, uh, we don't really have that opportunity to clear out the rage and the anger and the betrayal toward the people who put these negative core beliefs into our belief system. And these negative core beliefs, which I refer to as the psychovirus, don't simply leave your head because you do a bunch of affirmations and say, no, I'm a lovable person, and I'm a smart person, and I'm a beautiful person. These things do not wipe out these horrible negative core beliefs, because when mommy or daddy or primary caregiver says to you, you are this, this, and that, as children, we buy in. We just buy in. And it's very, very hard to dismantle that unless you've got it through, and unless you have the opportunity to really reprocess the pain and the chaos and the defense mechanisms that you built around these negative core beliefs. So please do grab a copy of Be the Cause: Healing Human Disconnect. So another point that she makes in the article is when you're feeling insecure in the relationship. Now, I come across this a lot in my practice. I have men and women calling and talking about how their partner is eyeing another person across the room, or liking them on Facebook, or talking about liking people with a different body type or hair color or whatever. If your partner is consistently destabilizing you, stop. Consider that. Consider why this person is doing that. And chances are that they're not too healthy, and that they have some kind of a hole in their soul, so that they have to demean and devalue and put you into a situation where they're triggering your negative core beliefs, which hopefully you've worked through so that you won't be triggered in the same way. So in the articles, she says, you may seek reassurances from your partner, but somehow these are only momentary and fleeting. As a result, you may be working double duty to keep the relationship on track while your partner contributes little. So this is the example of using your partner to fill, they're using you to fill their hole in the soul. Here's another red flag. They have a dark or secretive past, and you may not know it because it's secretive, so it may emerge over time. And so that's why you want to see how the person is over a span of time. Non-resolution of past relationships. So you might be dating somebody who's still pining over a certain somebody, and so you want to make sure that there's room for you, and that that person can open up their heart to you, because there's no point in dating somebody when all they can see is the person from their past. And so that's another thing that you want to watch out from, is baggage from a person's previous relationships, and how that weighs in on shadowing over the potential that the two of you have with each other. The next one is the relationship is built on the need to feel needed. So this is where we are looking at codependent relationships where people lean on each other. Easy to do during COVID, and we only have the other person there. We don't have a lot of choices, and so codependency, leaning on each other, that's fine momentarily, but not when it's such a constant in the life of the people that they eventually lean on each other to the point where they break. And then the last point is abusive behavior. If you're in an abusive relationship, please get out. Don't try to change the person. If the person wants to work on themselves, they can do that on their own, but not with you jeopardizing your well-being. And of course, now we have to consider if there are any kids involved, and so on and so forth. And so you don't want to be that parent that puts your own feelings before the needs of the children. So consider safety, the needs of the children, number one. So if you're in a verbally, emotionally, psychologically, physically abusive relationship, please get out. And if you come from a background of abuse, physical abuse, then remember that you might think that this is the norm. But just because it's your family's bar, a low bar, it doesn't mean that it's healthy and normal, and it's time to pick up that bar and break out of the cycle of multi-generational abuse and violence that you may be involved in. And so, unless there's another call, I'm going to remind everybody that you can avail yourself of a free consultation. We're available to talk to. I have a beautiful team of people. If you'd like to purchase that mind map video series, you can do so. It's very psychoeducational. It's affordable, and you can pair it with psychotherapy, and we'll be glad to take you through the journey of really delving into the childhood wounds so that you can clean up the past and decode it and recode yourself into health so that you can have a better part two of the rest of your life and not take the baggage of the multi-generational wounds and patterns and so forth into the next generation. So I'm just so glad to know that we can breathe again and walk around freely. And good luck, everybody, in your dating process. And I hope that you find true love out there, not people with a false self, but with a really true, deep, and empathic heart. And so get out there and take your time, get to know yourself, do your own healing, and then pair up with people that are on a healing journey and are interested in a synergistic growth partner. Thank you for tuning in. Good night, everybody. And if you've enjoyed my show, please subscribe to my channel. If you need help, please call the number below. And if you